Hey guys, it's Melanie. Welcome back. I hope you're having a fantastic day. If you missed it a little bit earlier, I uploaded my thoughts on the Homeworx coffee shop candle. I will link that video in the description box down below in case you missed it and you're interested. I will also put a link to where you can purchase this candle here. We are obviously talking about Kringle Reserve Royal Cherries. And oh my gosh, you guys, I really love this scent. I've been so excited to review this one because while I don't normally really gravitate towards a lot of cherry candles, like I enjoy them, right? But I tend to gravitate towards them a little bit more during the spring and summer. I'm a very seasonal person when it comes to home fragrance. Fruity scents for me are typically dedicated to, you know, maybe March through August, if you will. And then I like to go to apple scents for September. And then after that, we are into the full-on pumpkin spice season, right? So this one is a little bit out of my norm, but I have burned her to the halfway point already because I just love this scent, you guys. So you can see those beautiful dancing flames in there. I do love the change that Kringle made here by making the black jars a little bit less opaque. There have definitely been times where, you know, I've been a little bit tired at night and I may not have noticed that one of my Kringle Reserve candles was still going only because I didn't see the light emanating from it. When these get low, at least in the older jars, it was hard to tell whether your candle was lit or not. So anyway, there were a few that burned overnight, which obviously huge fire hazard. So please always remember to extinguish all of your candles before going to bed, and also before leaving your house. Let's all remember our candle safety, right? Anyway, so I'll put a link to where to purchase Kringle, the Kringle Reserve Royal Cherries, and a discount code as well in the description box. That'll save you at least 15%. The Reserve candles rarely go on sale. And unfortunately, there was a recent price hike for the Reserve candles. These are now $34. And honestly, I think that's why this most recent launch hasn't sold out completely yet. Kringle is pushing the top of, I think, most people's budget when it comes to a 2-wick candle of this particular size. You know, and I certainly don't blame people. I feel like we're all kind of trying to like be careful with our candle budgets these days. And the increase, I think, was a bit too much for certain people. However, that does mean that these candles are still readily available. So if normally you miss out because these get snatched up super quickly, they are still available on the website as of right now. Like I said, I'll link them down below. So feel free to use my discount code. It's just Melanie15. That'll at least save you 15% here if you don't have any rewards to claim or anything like that. Obviously, make sure that you get your best deal, whatever it may be. Okay, let's go ahead and discuss the scent description, talk about the fragrance notes. We'll discuss strength and throw as well as overall burn quality, and we will wrap her up here. Okay, sorry, I do have Alf. He's right below the camera and he just brought his favorite bone over. So let me see if I can convince him to, you want to take that over on the carpet? There you go, buddy. Oh my God, he's so mad at me. All right, so scent description, Royal Cherries. Lush, juicy royal cherries and sweet pineapple are enhanced with subtle summer roses and creamy notes of musk, sandalwood, and caramel. Your top notes are cherry, sweet almond, and pineapple. The mid notes are rose and white flower. The base is musk, creamy sandalwood, but it's creamy sandalwood and caramel. Okay, so what does this smell like? When I first shared my first impressions, first sniff video of this latest Reserve launch, I mentioned that the cherry note in here reminded me very much of one of my favorite Tom Ford fragrances, which is Lost Cherry. Fun fact is that I don't own the original Tom Ford Lost Cherry because Tom Ford is not cruelty free. So I have actually opted to look for the closest dupes, and I own a couple of dupes of Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. The dupes I think are so close to the real thing that I don't even feel like if I wasn't cruelty free, like if that wasn't important to me, that I still wouldn't spend the $300 plus on the 1.7 ounce size of the Lost Cherry. But that being said, Lost Cherry is an incredible fragrance. And if you've never sniffed it out, you must find a department store. Find you a Nordstrom. I think they carry it at Sephora. I don't know, but see if you can get your nose into the Tom Ford Lost Cherry, because if you love cherry fragrances, oh, it's absolutely perfect. And the cherry that's in here very much reminds me of the cherry that is used by Tom Ford in that particular fragrance. So because of that, this does have just a little bit of a perfuminess to my nose. I actually think that the musk maybe is what is creating that perfume note in here for me. But let's talk about the other fragrance notes here. So the sweet almond. Now, this doesn't really smell like an almond cream or almond paste to me. It's not really like an edible almond note. It's more of a floral almond note. So if you've ever smelled almond blossoms, that's kind of what I'm getting here in terms of that almond note. It's, like I said, it's not an almond extract, it's not an almond paste, it's not anything like that. It's more of that floral almond note. In terms of pineapple, okay, so if you've watched me for any amount of time, you know I'm not a huge fan of pineapple. There's a few fragrance notes that I am just very much against. And funnily enough, 2 of them are in this fragrance description, but I'm happy to report that the pineapple that's in here is, you get a little bit of like that pineapple tang and sweetness, but this does not scream pineapple to me at all. In fact, I would say that like if I wasn't really like sticking my nose over this, I'm not sure that the pineapple would really hit me in terms of fragrance notes. In terms of rose, this is another note that can kind of, I feel like, scare a lot of people off. This is a really deep, dark rose note, almost like a black Baccarat rose type note. I love it, but it's not rose heavy. So if you're scared of rose, don't be. It's not the predominant note here. What you really need to like in order to love this scent is cherry. So as long as you like the cherry, I think you're gonna be good to go with this one. The white flower, I don't know. I feel like I said, to me, the almond comes across as like a floral almond note. So, and usually almond blossoms, I believe they're always white. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that almond blossoms are usually always white. Okay, the base notes here. The musk, creamy, sandalwood, and caramel. So caramel is that other fragrance note that when I see that, I'm automatically like, ugh, I'm out. Caramel to me smells really cloying a lot of times, and I don't love it. Caramel and maple to me are just hard passes when it comes to gourmand fragrance notes. As much as I love gourmand fragrances, I just cannot with those 2. I'm happy to report that I don't really get caramel specifically from this. I do pick up sandalwood. And again, I think the sandalwood along with that musk is what it is giving us more of that like perfumey take on cherry here. I don't want to imply that this is just a straight up perfume candle, because you do also smell like an authentic like cherry note in here, but it's also not pure cherry to my nose. It really is a slightly perfumey cherry. I love it. Again, I think I personally love it because it reminds me so much of that fragrance that I wear fairly frequently. I just think this is a beautiful scent, you guys. I think it was kind of released in the wrong season, but then again, I really don't think that the Reserve line they don't really pay attention to like what is seasonally appropriate necessarily. In the Reserve line, they just come up with some really unique, interesting, more conceptual concoctions, and it works for that line. But this is something that I would have definitely released more around like the spring or summertime. In fact, after I'm done with this review, I'm thinking about blowing this one out and putting it in my backup stash and pulling it out next spring again. I certainly hope this continues to stick around in the Reserve line as a fragrance that they consider bringing back if it does eventually sell out, because this is one that I think I would just really love during like the warmer weather months versus the cold weather months. Strength and throw. All right, so now that we know what we're getting here in terms of fragrance, at least according to my nose, let's talk strength and throw. So I'm gonna put the strength of this one at right around a 6.5, 7. It's fluctuated ever so slightly, but honestly, for a 2-wick candle of this size, like with this like type of opening here, I think that that strength is very decent. Also, you have to consider like the house that I'm burning this in. That's really going to, the strength and throw are really going to be dependent on the layout of your home, how high your ceilings are. I've mentioned this before. Our house was built in 2002. It has that like early 2000s open concept style that was so popular back then. It has the really high ceilings in the downstairs. The upstairs ceilings are a little bit lower, but definitely in terms of the downstairs, the strength and the throw are between like a 6.5, 7. Same for the throw. It is a room filler in the downstairs and it travels outside of the room where it is, but it does not fill the entirety of the downstairs of the house. At this point, I feel like there are very few candle companies that do that, to be perfectly honest, at least in the space we have here. Now, when we were back at our old house, even though that one was also built in the early 2000s, it was a significantly smaller house, totally different style of home, and the rooms were much more closed off. I feel like I got a lot more oomph out of all of my candles in that particular house. So if you have an older style of home or you live in a house where things are a little bit more separated by doorways, I think and you have lower ceilings, I think you're gonna have a much stronger performance here. So definitely keep that in mind. Yeah, and just the overall burn, it's perfect. The soy candles always burn perfectly for me. Now, the country candle soy candles have been just still a touch more hit and miss. They aren't quite as consistent, but I think that that is because they color the wax for the country candle line, and I do think that that might have an impact on the overall burn. It's not terrible, and it's a vast improvement from the paraffin, but it's still, there's still some inconsistencies. These 2-wick jars from Kringle have always performed consistently for me, and the wax is never discolored. Let me give you an overhead view here so that you can see. There is no sooting on the side of the jar. There are no issues with the wicks. The wax is still white and clean the way that it was when the candle was delivered. It's really perfect. Honestly, I love the Kringle soy formula. If I could get every candle company to use this particular soy wax with these wicks, I would have a lot more candle companies to choose from. Like, this is a fabulous formula and I absolutely adore it. So anyway, this one gets 2 big fat thumbs up for me. I love it. I love that it reminds me of a perfume that I really enjoy wearing. I love that it is a cherry scent, which I don't really tend to do like a ton of. And it's beautiful. I just love it. Honestly, if you are a fan of cherry fragrances, you have to check this one out. Leave your thoughts down below in the comments if you purchased this one and have had a chance to burn it. Let us know what your experience is. And be sure to check out the description box for the links mentioned. I appreciate you guys being here. Please subscribe if you're new. Give this video a thumbs up if you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Toodaloo.